Welcome to Storm and Chocolate. I'm Stormin Norman. Today's song is number 20, I Won't Hold You Back, from Toto. The song I Won't Hold You Back from Toto 4 is the fourth single from the album behind Rosanna, Make Believe, and Africa. Rosanna spent 5 weeks at number 2 behind the two number 1 singles ahead of it, Don't You Want Me by the Human League and Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. Make Believe, the second single from the album, only made it to number 30 and was more of a palate cleanser than another big hit from the album. Africa, on the other hand, we all know what happened there. The record company didn't think it would sell, but it certainly did. It was certified 10x platinum in the United States, 14 times platinum in Australia, and multi-platinum in other countries. It is the only number 1 song from Toto in the US, but it also hit number 1 in 7 other countries. Additionally, this song was so strong it helped album sales top 4 million in the US alone. In March of 1983, today's song was released as a single. And while it topped out at number 10 in the US in the Hot 100, it hit number 1 in the Adult Contemporary chart in the US and also in Canada. It's really different from the first 3 songs in that it starts with soft piano and has violins, and it's really an adult contemporary sounding song, whereas the others are very different.
What is adult contemporary?
Stuff that adults like rather than kids. So it doesn't have jungle drums like Africa does. It doesn't have the halftime shuffle that Rosanna does. And it also doesn't have the driving, pounding piano that Make Believe does. So it really stands out alone. So instead we get a beautiful, thoughtful breakup song, just as the title implies. Toto burst onto the scene in 1978 with their single Hold the Line from their first album. It had driving piano, hard-hitting drums, and power guitar, and it came out like the band had something to prove. When actually it didn't, because most of the members of Toto had spent the previous several years working as studio musicians around LA. However, they had yet to step out with their own compositions. Most of the members met each other in high school in Valley Glen, which is west of Burbank in Southern California and north of the Hollywood Hills. Keyboardist David Paich, son of famous musician Marty Paich, met... Good! So many names. Keyboardist David Paich, son of famous musician Marty Paich, met Jeff Porcaro, son of percussionist Joe Porcaro, in high school, and they formed the band Rural Still Life, later shortened to just Still Life. And after high school, they started doing session work in LA, as I mentioned before. David Paich was also a composer, a songwriter, and he helped Boz Scaggs write several songs, if not a lot of the album Silk Degrees, which was one of Boz Scaggs' best albums. As a matter of fact, David helped write the hits Lowdown and Lido Shuffle. As sessionists, they also played with other bands such as Steely Dan and Seals and Crofts.
Sorry, what?
Crofts. Crofts. It's like crafts, except with an O. Crofts. Seals and Crofts. Crofts. Seals and Crofts. If you heard them, you might recognize the songs.
Saying it weird.
When they got serious about starting a band, they looped in guitarist Steve Lukather and keyboardist Steve Porcaro, who were a year behind them in high school.
Keyboardist?
Yes, guy who plays keyboards.
Keyboardist.
They added multi-instrumentalist David Hungate, who moved from the Midwest in the early 70s to do session work, and they worked with him on Silk Degrees. Then finally, they added singer Bobby Kimball, whose group SS Fools disbanded after the non-success of their debut album. Bobby moved from Louisiana in '74 to pursue music full-time, and he joined with 3 former Three Dog Night members in order to form SS Fools. In the 80s, the band told journalists that the group's name came from The Wizard of Oz. However, Jeff simply wrote Toto on the reels in order to keep them separate from the material they were doing for other artists. When they were done with the album and they still didn't have an official name, David Hungate pointed out that in toto is Latin for all-encompassing, And this really well described studio musicians who were playing with different artists in different themes. So they kept the name. While their debut album was a smash hit, the follow-ups Hydra and Turn Back, not so much. With the threat of being dropped by their label, they went back to the strategy they had with their first album, which was to create songs that have many different styles, hence the 4 singles from the album being very different. When I first got the CD, I had already heard the songs Rosanna and Africa and seen the videos on MTV, and I just played it all the way through because I trusted there would be more good songs on there. I remember the first 5 songs were okay, but it seemed like there was a wasteland on the album until you got to Africa, which is the last song on the album, song 10, I believe. I didn't really remember today's song, I Won't Hold You Back, until I saw Toto live on YouTube, and they played the song, and I really liked the way the song is constructed, the music specifically. But then I started hearing the words, and the more I heard, the more I liked. The verses have an A-A-B-A-B structure. Steve Lukather, the lead singer on the song, and actually the only singer on this song, is singing about an imminent breakup, but he's being an adult about it. He's admitting fault, but he's also promising not to cling on, not to hold her back from seeking happiness somewhere else. The first 2 lines in each verse rhyme, but they are different lengths. For example, in the first verse, which we can hear here, the first line is 9 syllables long, and the second line is 12 syllables long.
If I had another chance tonight, I'd try to tell you that the things we had were right.
In verse 2, which we hear here, we hear that there are 8 syllables and 9 syllables respectively, but Steve modulates some of the syllables so it all works out.
Now you're gone, I'm really not the same. I guess I held myself to blame.
The third and the fourth lines in each verse are special. They're exactly the same in the first verse and in the third verse, but in the second verse, they're different. Here's what lines 3 and 4 in the first verse sound like.
Time can erase the love we shared, but it gives me time to realize just how much you care.
In all 3 verses, you always hear a stress on the word time. And then in the fourth line, you hear time again, so it kind of closes the loop between the 2. The pairing is time can erase, followed by but it gives me time. So that's how the 2 are paired together. These pairs become more significant throughout the song until in the third verse, he belts out that last line and the strings swell up because it's very emotional by that time. Pun intended. After the second chorus, we get the guitar solo, and then we hear the repetition of the first 2 lines of the chorus, which repeats until the song ends. So like I said, it's a very adult breakup song, finely crafted by Steve Lukather and the band. So that's it for I Won't Hold You Back, song number 20 from Toto's 4th album, Toto 4. Next time, we're going to feel a new sensation as we get kicked in excess. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.